In this video, I would like to show you some of the most beautiful, peaceful places I know on a walking route that I have done at minimum hundreds, maybe even well over 1,000 times during the last couple of decades, and hope to do so for many more decades to come. We are heading up Oswestry racecourse, setting out at the town park gates. And if you're from this area, you may see some familiar places, and if you're not, I hope you enjoy an introduction to my part of the world. Although you can see there's a unexpected lock on the gate. Let's go. Okay, so we've already fallen at the first hurdle today by arriving at the park before it was actually open. So you'll just have to pretend that we're surrounded by all the flower displays. Let's carry on. On our way out of the town, we'll just stop off and have a quick look at Oswald's Well, an absolute legendary place amongst the town. So this is the spring that allegedly sprung up after King Oswald lost the battle, was tied to a tree and cut to pieces, and then an eagle flew off with one of his arms, dropping it on that very spot where the water has been flowing ever since. As we leave the town, we're going to head across Broomhall Lane and jump straight into the first field we can find. Admittedly, although it's always good to get grass beneath your boots, this isn't the most scenic, immediate sight on entering a field, but I think you only have to look into the distance to know that we have got some absolutely fantastic countryside ahead. Well, I always say about the countryside being a working environment, and as a perfect example, we've got a tractor just pulled up to go through the very gateway and into the field that we ourselves are heading to. Something I just want to point out here, you can see just how new a lot of these gates are, and also how old those white gateposts are too, so just keep that in mind. But on a serious note, one of the reasons I love this walk and have done it so often over the years is the fact it's just in great condition, and everybody involved must be taking some pretty decent care of it. You can see there's a few of the old wooden styles left, but they've practically all been upgraded to the modern metal gates, which will hopefully last a long distance into the future. Something that hasn't lasted, however, is Clamora Hall, one of my favourite places ever in the world. I've been through this doorway in the middle of the woodlands a minimum of 1,000, maybe thousands of times, and you can see I've got old photos going back years and years to where it was actually a complete door frame with a wooden frame and everything, and even this when it still was just crumbling apart to what it is these days. But this whole woodland is filled with remnants and little glimpses of what was once here. But just take a look at this as we reach the open fields again. If we take a look over to our right hand side, we have got the remnants of the once mighty walled garden. And one of the fascinating things to me about this area is that even as recently as my nan and granddad's generation, they have memories of there being a substantial enough set of ruins and building work here in what is now the woodland that you could actually go up a staircase to the second floor of the building, which is now, as you can see, unimaginable, and it shows the pace of degradation. And it's just another reason why I'm so glad to have documented some of these places on camera. Even just that doorway and seeing how even in my generation it was a full doorway there in the woodlands itself. We've now reached the proper uphill section of the walk, and there's a choice of paths here, just as there is in many other places in this area. I thought we'd take the steeper one just so that I can look as unfit and out of breath as possible while recording to camera. Let's go. A slight curiosity of this walk is that even though we're walking up a hill, there are not really many opportunities to show you any of the views or vistas around us, and that's because the racecourse itself is now all overgrown, as you'll see later in this video. Just another side note here, this is one of my favourite areas, and talking about how well kept this area is, look at this, it's new gate after new gate after new gate. All of these used to be stiles once upon a time, back in my day, and you can see if you go this way through the woods, you start getting the little plank bridges and everything, but like I say, this back in the day was all wooden stiles. Anyway, going on to our route properly, I just wanted to show you this, one of my absolute favourite features, this really old stone staircase style over the wall. Just look at that. It's difficult for me to put into words how many times I've trodden this way and how much I love it. I've now been out and about for 2 hours, and although that is way longer than it would normally take if I was just walking without running around doing the filming, and of course just enjoying some moments of pure nostalgia and reminiscence from all those years ago, I've got to say, getting to the woods themselves almost feels like the end of the walk in a certain way, because now I know for a while we're going to be penned in with no particular view or anything to see that's beyond the path directly ahead of us. But you know what? That just means that we've almost got our own private meditation bubble, if you want to get a little bit poetic with your language, that we're just out here. I mean, look at this. You can see a little bit further on that side, but it's all just trees and trees and trees. Beautiful, peaceful, and in the right way, quite isolating. I wish I could tell you the feeling that I get inside when I'm walking some of these tracks that I've got very clear memories of walking in my late teenage years onwards. And in some cases, some parts of these tracks, I have really clear flashes of memory from my very young childhood years. And now, as age 40 is not too far away from me, and there is a worrying amount of grey hair that peeks from beneath my hat, I feel incredibly lucky, I suppose, to be able to tread these same routes and enjoy it still as an incredibly tranquil area. Although some places like this, the trees are now a lot younger than I was when I was first coming up here, and the trees used to tower over me. But times change, the countryside is managed, and just for this brief moment, we've actually got a view from here. Things like this wall, for example. I can remember that wall being all toppled over and all just stonework every which way for as long as I've been coming to this area. And I can remember coming here with the school when I was really, really young. But look at it. It's a magical environment, isn't it? What an absolutely beautiful place that many people like myself and my fellow Oswestrians have been blessed to come out and enjoy. And as I say, hopefully, long may it continue. So here we are on top of the racecourse. And the fact that it's called the racecourse comes from the fact that it was, once upon a time, a literal horse racing course. The last race was held up here in 1848, and these are the ruins of the old grandstand. And I always love this thought. Just look at this now, an incredibly tranquil, empty, peaceful area with a few stone pillars still remaining that once upon a time would have been filled with shouting crowds who were having sometimes a very good day, sometimes a very bad day. But look at this, they actually put engraved plaques here showing you all of the hills that you could see off into the distance. And now, of course, all of the trees have grown up, and like I mentioned earlier, the view is practically non-existent for the vast majority of this area. I made sure, though, to get this little clip here, which is one of the very few places literally on the path to and from the car park where you can actually see down across Oswestry itself. So at this point I'm leaving the car park and I'm actually going to travel quite a lot of the downhill segment on the back racecourse lane here, which itself is actually a really nice little windy road, but even here it branches off into an even smaller road. And these are the sort of country lanes I have spent way too much of my life either walking or cycling down, and I'll explain why I describe it like that in just a second. But I do want to take a moment just to say that the amount of hours that I've spent on this walk and in this area literally amounts to a minimum of hundreds upon hundreds of hours, and this was the area that I was constantly coming and walking around multiple times a week, sometimes multiple times a day, depending on what was going on. I did it on Christmas Day once in the afternoon, absolutely full of food, but it was all in the era before I ran away and lived on my first ever boat, and if it wasn't for spending all of that time obsessively walking and exploring out in these areas, I probably never would have got that love of nature which led me to ultimately buy a boat and then spend years and years of my life living on boats on the canal travelling around. So I feel I have a tremendous amount of love and respect and gratitude for what this area and these walks have given me. And the reason I say about how many hours I've spent walking and cycling down these is because, of course, when I lived on the boat and moved around to these obscure places, I didn't have a car for most of that time, so I was literally cycling sometimes, maybe 70 miles over the course of a weekend to get to and from Oswestry to go to work. Good times. I was certainly a lot younger and fitter, I'll say that much. I just want to show you this though. This is Muddy Lane, leading us right back into the heart of Oswestry. And you can see how there's a lot of really clean stones beneath our feet here, and how in the winter you can imagine it turns into a massive stream. But as if by magic, it takes us from the countryside and drops us out here in the middle of a housing estate. And so, after roughly 4 hours and just over 7.5 miles, a very slow, beautiful, nostalgic trip came to an end. It was so busy in the park at this time that I didn't want to film the flowers on display, so instead I just propped my camera up and then filmed this little segment of me sitting on a bench to end with. Thank you very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please do subscribe, give me a follow, like the video and help spread the word. And if you really want to help me out, consider becoming a supporter, whether through PayPal, through YouTube membership or Facebook subscription, just like some of my recent supporters. Rob, Reese W, Nick T, John D, Morbid Lydia, Lima Bean, Mr. Dave C, 1234, Art V, Thing, Terence S, Amber S, Julie R, Carol P, Kevin Y, Alice L, Jackie A, Sean B, Colin S, Elaine L, Kaz G, Rich A H, M V, James G, Zoe F, George B, Sharon L H, and Melissa S. Thank you very much, everybody. Until the next time, keep it interesting, keep it Oswestry worthy, have a fantastic day, and of course, my friends, farewell.